Everyone, thanks for spending some time today coming to this event. Really honored to be invited by SUS to host this event and get to know a bit more about the people here at USID. And so I was going to go through a bit of an interview panel that will answer some of your questions. And SUS have also prepared a few questions for us to answer. So just kicking off with introductions. My name is Kevin. I'm a consultant at Griffin. I've been here for about coming up on 2 years. In December now, and I started in the grad program. I actually went to UNSW and did a Bachelor of Civil Engineering with Architecture, and I've been working across strategy and transaction projects in energy and more recently the water sector. I'll pass it on to Bob, who's next speaker.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Bob, undergraduate consultant with Griffin, been here for also almost 2 years. Currently still studying at USID, so just working at Griffin part-time, and I also do civil engineering and architecture.
Hey, I'm Jeffrey or Jeff. So senior consultant as part of Connell Griffin. I'm fairly new, so this is my third week, but as part of that, I was working with CG a bit previously. So my experience consists of like 4 years of like mainly process of heritage, which I can talk about a bit later. So I'll probably just move on. And sorry, I'll also introduce Richard Lee, so who's a bit late at the moment, but he is coming as well. So he's a consultant with us at CG. So I'll just move on to our business initiatives. Bob, do you want to take this one? Yeah. Okay. So basically, CG, we have a variety of sectors, as you can see here. So that consists of 8 in total. We are expanding it a bit. So what you can see is it's mainly infrastructure based. So you have your road, which is urban and regional, brownfield, greenfield, etc. You have your metro, your transport projects, your water infrastructure as well. Brownfield again, but that's more related to like your ports and airports. Your renewable energies and energy sector, which is a bit new for us. But think of your renewable energy projects that are happening, I guess, recently over like New South Wales. Ports, school infrastructure, which we sort of classify as like social infrastructure. So that's more regarding like if you were to expand a school or like develop a school or something, or hospitals or something similar, they'll be in that field. For me, precincts, they'll fall into sort of that like social infrastructure. And then disaster relief as well, which is also fairly new for us, but that's upcoming with like the recent disasters that were happening. And then so we're assisting sort of a few clients in that area. So our key clients, Sydney Metro, Sydney Water, as you can see, it's very government focused. One of the key reasons for that is because as part of infrastructure projects, those are, I guess, pretty risky for the private sector to take on. And then so that's why in the majority of cases, government will be undertaking like, let's say the enabling infrastructure or like just the large scale infrastructure. Therefore, handing over to developers. There's also a few things which you want to keep in government ownership as well. So, for example, energy. But apart from that, we do have a few private clients here and there. Is there anything you would like to add? Okay. In that case, I'll move on to the next slide. So, moving on to our service lines, we have 5 in total. So, develop, procure, deliver, resolve, and operate. I can talk a bit more about that during the session afterwards, but I'll just give a very quick overview as part of this. So develop, that's more regarding sort of like business cases, strategy. What business cases are, they're more sort of deciding, they're basically documents that detail everything that you need to include for a decision to be made by government or by someone else. So at a very high level, it's basically at the very front of a project, do we proceed with this or not? That's pretty much developed in a nutshell. Procure, that's more when you're going into like your transaction management, your commercial framework. So like, okay, we've decided that we want to proceed with this project. We now need to get some help from the market in order to deliver this. So these will be engagement of like your contractors, also your consultants. So like your Lend-Lease, Multiplex, John Holland, etc. And also your consultants such as like ACOM, Oricon, and a few others as well, just to assist the process and actually get things going. We then have deliver, which is more of the contract management. So now we've engaged our contractors, we've engaged our consultants. Now we are actually delivering the services as per the agreements and the scope of services. So and as part of the deliver phase, we're basically checking, are they doing, the services correctly? Do they have any issues? We basically do the management of that. Going to resolve, that's when any issues come up. So like any conflicts or like major scale conflicts. So you'll have heard of a lot of the sort of disputes that happen, let's say with the light rail. And then so we can assist on that and basically try and achieve a result that's beneficial for both parties, whether that's government or the contractor or any of the combination of the two. And then operate, which is also fairly new for us, which is pretty much like going into operations and the handover operations. What we do find is that the handover from like, let's say we finish a construction project, now we need to actually go and operate or handover. That process isn't done exactly really well. So we try and basically, if we're engaged under the operate service line, we're basically just assisting that process and ensuring a better handover and ensuring better operational management from that perspective. Moving on to student opportunities. So at CG, we have a few ways you'll be able to enter. So we have the Young Professionals program, which is basically the graduate program. So you'll be able to enter that way. And then there's also the undergraduate program, which Bob is currently in. So if you have any questions with regards to undergrad, feel free to ask Bob or feel free to ask us. We're more than happy to answer. And with regards to applications for Young Professionals program, which we call YPP. So applications for YPP and undergrad, they'll be opening in February 2025. But obviously, if you have any questions, let us know. And who we're looking for, it's actually quite diverse. So like Connell Griffin being an infrastructure advisory firm, I should probably say that at the start, but being an infrastructure advisory firm, we're looking sort of like commerce, law, engineering. If they're not doing those three, we can consider as well. But like, it's basically what we're more looking for is like a combination of that. So we're looking at like the commercial side and also like a bit technical as well. But any questions, let us know. And I think that is the end. So I just, yep.
So we're going to start the interview session now. I'm going to ask questions to the four panelists, and I'll invite you guys to ask questions as well. So I shall bring up the profiles. There we go. All right. So are there any questions for the four panelists yet? Okay. So can I get you guys to move in a tiny bit? Yeah. All right. So I'd like to start with Connell Griffin. So among the 8 sectors, how are you assigned to certain projects? So do you join them voluntarily, or are you assigned to certain groups, depending on what your skills are, what you've studied?
Thanks. I'll go for it. Yeah, so a portion of it is based on what you study. We look at kind of your background and see if you're more proficient in law or engineering, and if you get assigned to a sector. But you also do have to say, I think for most of you, if you do join on at the internship or graduate program, you'll kind of have a pick of which sector you want to go into and what interests you. So we've got energy, rail, water, which are like pretty prevalent sectors that offer similar projects, but different fields of interest. Yeah. And there's also opportunity to switch between projects. So if you haven't, an end date on your engagement and a new one's coming up and it's something that you kind of want to go into, you can express your interest, and Griffin will do its best to put you on that project that aligns with either your personal goals or your personal interests. And yeah, it's pretty flexible.
Okay. All right. So following off of that, what project or projects are you guys currently working on?
I'll go first. So I'm currently on a transaction project with Sydney Water. The main purpose of the job is to get the pipeline networks built for the Western Sydney Airport that's coming up in the next couple of years. And they've got an advanced water recycling center that's due for commissioning in 2026. So we're in a bit of a rush to get all the pipeline and networks connected for commissioning. Yeah. Hello. Hey. So I'm actually on the same project with Kevin right now, but so before that I was on a project for the Catholic schools paramedic ICs, which was one of those business case projects where we had to develop a business case regarding how to improve, I think, around 28 schools within the Parramatta and surrounding LGAs, and how to help prepare those schools in terms of population and student growth in the next 10 years.
Yeah, so I've been on the Senior Measure Rangaroo project for basically almost the whole 2 years. It's currently in the deliver process, which is when the infrastructure being built, so you're managing the contract and all that stuff. And currently just taking it through its final stages. Even though it's already been built, to still cost to manage and contractual obligations to fulfill, so just taking it through that final stage into when it's like a legal resolution as we
I'm fairly new, so I'll talk about my previous projects. So as I mentioned before, I was engaged with precinct development, more specifically Macquarie Street East. Now, what is Macquarie Street East? If you know where the state library is, I was looking at that area, and also where the High Park barracks are, and basically looking at that entire area, which is owned by government. The reason why we're looking at that area, because what's currently there is, let's say, do not enter signs, upkeep pavement. It's not very accessible and inviting place to be. But with the government organizations there, you have state library, museums of history, you have Parliament House, they're all doing tours and they all want tourism and visitation to be there. So my role was basically looking at that entire precinct and working out what needs to happen in order to make it more inviting as a cultural precinct.
Thank you. I've seen quite a few posts about people crying over how happy the Barangaroo project was. So how long have you all worked on at Connell Griffin?
Yeah, I've been coming up on 2 years. So I started in January of 2023 in the graduate program. I'm in the graduate program right now. I started like this Jan, so it's been 8 months. No, it's October now. Oops, 9 months now.
Yeah, almost 2 years. Started December 2020.
3 weeks, but in total I have 4.5 years experience as part of the precinct development, like looking at the press release and also the parallel law as well.
So for the two that have been here for the longest, 2 years, how has Connell Griffin changed much since you first started?
Yeah, it's definitely expanded a lot more. So we've opened a few offices. So we've got one in Canberra now, and also Toowoomba. So that's on top of Melbourne, Brisbane, and Sydney. And we've also been growing at a pretty fast rate. Back in the Q1 of 2023, we got acquired by private equity. So it's a buy and build strategy, which means we've just been acquiring a lot of people and trying to grow the business as fast as we can. And recently, we also acquired a firm up in Brisbane, Info Advisory, just in time to prepare for the Brisbane Olympics that will be coming up in 2032 or something. Yeah, so there's a huge focus on Brisbane as well at the moment.
Yeah, I guess the only thing to add is, the growth has been really exciting. I think that's the main change that we've seen over 2 years that we've been here. Also, just the type of projects that we've been involved in. So obviously, the project focus has shifted a lot to like energy, and we're getting involved with that a lot. So those are like the two main things, like the growth and the type of projects we're working on. But I would say that the thing that has remained constant is the feeling of like a small company. In that you still pretty close to everyone, still grow with everyone. And culturally it's still very, very much the same. And yeah.
All right. So you guys have had quite a bit of experience now. How is Connell Griffin different from the previous firms that you've worked with?
So before Connell Griffin, I used to do an internship at Lendlease, working on the Victoria Cross metro station, which we just finished like last month or so. That was a very, sorry, we're talking about experiences, right?
Yeah.
yeah, that was a very different experience to now because well, firstly the hours, there's a lot more work-life balance working at Connell Griffin, especially considering that you're either in the main office or you're in the client office or you're also working at home. So it's a lot more variety in where you want to where you want to be working at. I think also for myself personally, it was although we were talking a lot with the contractor side when I was at Lebanese, I found that at Connell Griffin, I get to talk with a lot of the contractors as well, but also a lot with the client side. So just getting both sides of the fence and what's really going on in the engineering industry. And I think finally, yeah, Connell Griffin, at Lebanese, there was more of a focus on like the delivery aspects and the construction and what's going on site. But in Connell Griffin, I found that there's a lot more focus on the commercial and the contractual obligations and what's going on that end. So yeah, it's been good learning for me. Yeah.
Jeff, do you have any?
So with regards to CG, where I was before was audio CBRE, where we got acquired. So CBRE, I was still in infrastructure advisory, but it was more focused on the delivery side of things. So if you think back to basically our service lines, it's more like the back end product side of things. With regards to difference, Connell Griffin is more in the strategic space, so we play more in the front end. Where the difference, I'll probably just relate it back to like engineering. So like, let's say you're a civil engineer, ACOM, by the time you receive a scope of works telling you what to do, there's a lot of decisions have already been made. Connell Griffin, where we play is basically, we try and develop the scope of works and try to develop what actually needs to happen. So linking it back to Macquarie Street East, government tells us, we want to make this place a cultural precinct that's more inviting to the public. Our role then to actually come up with a list, or not a list, but basically a plan or a strategy to actually work out how do we get there from point A to point B. So that might be, we need to improve the public domain from the state library. In order to do that, you need to decrease the number of roads. You also need to improve on lawn. At the same time, you need east-west connections between sort of this metro, which is going to be at the city with the art gallery. So really like sort of develop what that might look like. And then once we have an understanding of that, we then release it to the market, we engage our architects, engineers, etc., to then do the actual design for that prior to actually constructing what we need to do.
Does anybody have any questions about the differences? Yeah, I'll just keep in mind.
I think the graduate like a student who wants to undertake some program. Is that applicable to graduates?
The question was, is the undergraduate program is also applicable to postgraduate students?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the undergraduate program is accessible. All right. So looking at your profiles up here, you guys all have double degrees. So how has your double degree played a role, or if it has played a role in your career?
I guess for me, since I did architecture, I don't really get to use any of my kind of stuff that I learned in architecture, but kind of the double degrees kind of taught me that about time management and how to manage expectations of going between high workload and switching between priorities and trying to get whatever's the most important out the door first and organizing your time efficiently. I think that's the extent of what my degrees taught me, unless anyone has anything.
So from combining commerce and engineering, I feel like it gives me a more diverse perspective. So as I mentioned before, I am playing more in the front end or the strategic side. And it is good to have an understanding of both the commercial side of things and also the technical. Because a lot about what my role is having different chats with different people from different backgrounds. So like, let's say I'll have a chat with the client, which might be government, they have their own understanding of requirements. I'll have a chat with the civil engineers. They have, they will provide their advice. I'll have a chat with, let's say, financial advisors. They'll provide their advice. And I sort of all need to bring all of that together. So for me, combining the degrees definitely has a benefit in terms of making my perspective more diverse. The actual content in the degrees, I would say, is not as relevant. And that's, I would say, is more applicable to like sort of 4 degrees. Like once you actually sort of go into the industry, you'll realize that what you learn over 4 years, you're going to learn very quickly in the industry. But what it does teach you is how do you learn and how you approach problems, which I think is important.
I think just a disclaimer as well. I think we're all pretty limited in how we can answer this question because of the nature of what we do at Griffin. I think double degrees and even single degrees are definitely a lot more applicable to certain roles in engineering. With like consultancy, it's definitely like general skills, and like commercial management doesn't really relate to too much of any of what we learn in uni, like even in civil, definitely not in architecture. But obviously for like I don't know, structural engineer or a civil degree, if you double in something else, would definitely have a lot more relevance. So I think we're limited in how we can answer it. It's not a bad thing.
All right. So, question about your career paths to Connell Griffin. How did you find where did you find the opportunity to work for Connell Griffin? So was it on like a careers fair, an email that you got randomly, or did you actively look on the websites and stuff like that?
I think for me, I had a pretty typical path. I started in design engineering. I did an internship in that, and I thought it wasn't for me. Just content was a bit dry, bit of numbers every day. So I switched over to do underwriting in an insurance company. That was a bit more finance related. That was good, but again, I think the content does get dry, and it's something that I can't kind of see myself doing for the rest of my life. So naturally, I moved over to consulting and wanted to find like a role that had more opportunity and more projects that they worked on. Just like each day would be a bit different, and kind of you rock up to work and you wouldn't know what to expect day to day. And then I came across Connell Griffin just through going to uni, and I think they had a uni event on where one of the previous grads came and spoke about it. I thought it was a pretty good opportunity, so just applied, and it's been like that ever since.
I found about Griffin through like similar to something like this, to be honest. It was like a Seuss industry night, I think. And someone from Griffin was there, Daniel Sudio, I don't know if you know. And he was like the funniest guy on the panel. And everyone wanted to talk to after the career panel ended. So I was like, it seems like a company, and the way he talked to the company was like very friendly, very like family culture. So I kind of just like, this is a company that I would like to work for, kind of kept it in my mind. Later on, decided to try consulting, so obviously applied here, but the internship. So someone got good.
Does anyone have any? No, okay. Yes. All right, that's a slight promo to industry night. Please come next time. All right, so this is a bit of a sensitive topic, but what are some mistakes you made early in your career? Any takers?
I don't make mistakes.
Okay. I'm going to give you like for example, like
I mean, like the classic examples, making mistakes on like some numbers, making a typo, just classic like stuff you do while at uni as well. I think they're very applicable to when you're working. It's because when you're when you're at work, it's pretty much doing similar stuff to what you're doing at uni in terms of like writing a report or writing some numbers. I think that happens to everyone. I don't know what else to add, but I think what really matters at the end of the day isn't really what kind of mistakes you make, it's like what you're going to do about it. I hear a lot of people, they go, oh shit, this happened, what I'm going to do. But I think what really shows like what the kind of person you are is like, oh yeah, I made that mistake, I messed up, what am I going to do now? How am I going to fix that? And I think that happens a lot in like outside uni as well. So yeah,
All right.
that's it. So,
I assume you guys are perfect, so you guys don't need it. You want to take the mic? No? Okay. So, if you guys have joined any specific societies, how did those provide opportunities to your career in general?
So I went music. I was part of Business Fund Consulting, was vice president for that one. I was also sport outreach coordinator for Engineers Without Borders, and I was also events director for Project Fire. The reason why I chose those three were Business Fund Consulting, that's sort of linking me with the commerce side. Engineers Without Borders, that was linking me with basic the engineering side. And then Project Fire was more of a community-focused society. How that links into my sort of career into the industry, it doesn't really have a direct link per se, but what it does do for me is that it sort of differentiates me from other people or other applicants. So during like an interview process on your resume, you can see that, you know, I've done extracurricular items that, you know, if you, let's say, were to have the resume of like 2 people, same experience, all of that, but one person's done a bit more than the other, you'll probably go for the one who has done a bit more. But for me, like the society front was also a bit more interesting as well. It was giving me a bit of a break from uni. But ultimately, I do think it was like sort of the connections you make, but also like how you sort of sell yourself and how you use that experience to your benefit. That's what's going to be important. And it doesn't have to be society experience. It can be sort of like community initiatives. It can be other internships. I also did the industry placement program in Los Angeles as well. So sort of once you sort of do more and more, it gets a bit more comfortable. And over time, that sort of adds up and then it will end up being something. But most importantly, it's how you present yourself and how you're able to sell yourself and how you're able to differentiate from other people.
All right, thank you. Does the audience have any questions about career paths? Oh, you? Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, is it difficult when you're applying for jobs to get in, especially with common Griffin? Was it like competitive when you guys were applying, or was it like a smooth sailing to apply and get in? So did you guys get in through other people as well, or was it straight through the website, like on paper?
That's very good. Take a mic.
I can't say for Connell Griffin, so I'll just talk a bit about my one. So I was Connell Consulting, which was similar in the sense that it was one of the 3 companies that sort of came out of Evans Tech. Connell Griffin's big one. But how I actually found out about it was sort of an email from Peter K. I don't know if Peter K is still here, but he basically sent out a mass email to the UC civil students. And then that's how I found out about the opportunity. I applied, and then from there, it was just the interviews are pretty easy to be honest. With regards, like it was just more of a chats. It was just basically chatting, going through your resume, why you would like to sort of come in. And then so that from that perspective, it was fairly easy. But like if I were to say like linking back to my internship application, like I'm pretty sure I did like 50 and I got rejected out of all of them. So like it is a bit of a numbers game, but at the same time, have a real think about where you would like to go, because we call ourselves consultants, but so does everyone else. So what does that actually mean? How does it align with what you want to do? I would say that with regards to your application, do try to make it a bit more personalized. If we do see a personalized email, personalized sort of resume, cover letter, we can tell that you put in effort. That is linking it back to what I said before. It does differentiate you from other people, and it really tells us more about yourself, which pretty much which will give us a better understanding of you as a person and then what you want to do.
I'll just add a bit onto that. So I applied like standard go on the website, oh, there's an opportunity, click apply. For me and doing the applying for the YPP, I believe it was like a written application stage, and afterwards it was like a 1 day business case study and slash presentation, and after that there was a final interview. I think throughout all that, I think pretty much like Jeff said, I really try to make like each of the questions that they ask us like really personal, like, oh, what did this mean to me? Like why I wanted to do the job, or why this area or this industry was interesting for me. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much how I went about it. I think in terms of competition, I think there's always going to be competition wherever you go. Really, like every single field there's always going to be someone that wants to go for what you want to go for, and I think it's at that point instead of worrying about what that person's going to do, just I think it's more better to be like, this is me, this is what I'm going to do, and as long as you show the other person that, then that's the best you can do, honestly. Yes, sorry, who's taking the mic?
I'll be quick. Yeah, so when we actually are doing the shortlisting for the interviews, one of the things that we look for are well-written responses. So being able to articulate your point across is something that's really important. And yeah, definitely the bit about why do you guys really want to come to Connell Griffin in particular. Something that I think is really, really good would be to talk to people from Connell Griffin. So with us networking through LinkedIn, or we will be at like all the uni careers fair. So just come up and like talk to us, and then you guys can like name drop later, like you've talked to this person, you know what a day-to-day life is. Like you kind of have an expectation going into the company of what you're going to do, and that's like why you're very interested in it. It all helps when you're applying to the class.
Basically just doing like it is quite hard, like especially this year, I think. I think that's what you were asking about. Like yeah, I have friends and stuff, super qualified, just don't get any replies at all from all the job applications. I think this is specifically hard, and maybe what would work for most people, or what worked for me was just, as Kevin said, just like going to events and actually like knowing someone, or talking to people, because that really helps. Like you message them or they message you, new application, like it kind of boosts your application quite a lot. There'll be a lot of similar applicants, because it is getting quite competitive these days. So maybe like knowing someone.
I'll just add that like how I like approaching it is think of it from the recruiter's perspective. So assume that they're only spending 10 seconds to read your resume. So my first recommendation to all students is to keep a resume to 1 page. I know people say maximum 2 pages, keep it 1 page. I know people who have 10 years of experience can still keep on 1 page. So there's no reason why, myself included, can't just keep it to 1 page. So as Kev mentioned, so like talking to like our people like us at like sort of career fairs, you can then name drop, and like sort of that then personalizes your cover letter if you are writing a cover letter. So hey, I was talking to Jeff, I was talking to Kev, really was interested in like X project, decided that this was, the career path for me because of I want to play more in like the infrastructure advisory space. Due to this appears to be more interesting due to X, Y, Z. That then gives you a really personalized cover letter that no one else can recreate. And that is going to differentiate you from others. But I will also say that your first position is always going to be your hardest. Afterwards, it's actually not too bad because the number of applicants decreases dramatically. But definitely coming out of uni is going to be your hardest one. But once you get past that point, and you will, it'll be much easier.
All right. So I'm just going to quickly turn to the programs. There we go. So I have some questions about the programs in particular. So are there any requirements for each program? Who should I like to? Okay.
There's no set requirements in terms of degrees or days of working. So I think we just expect that you guys turn up, for 50% of the week. It is a requirement. So yeah, you have to turn up for like at least 2-3 days a week. But you're free to choose whichever days you want to work. So because we know you have like commitments to uni and you gotta go to class some days. And also we just asked that you guys have the 12 weeks kind of free for the internship program to do. It's pretty flexible as to when you can join, so it doesn't have to be over your summer holiday break. It can be pushed earlier. So, you know, the moment you guys finish semester 2, you guys can just start straight away, or you can do it mid semester 2. Yeah, no real barriers to entry.
So, I was just about to ask about the down days. So, what kind of projects or tasks would an applicant be working on while under the program?
I'll go with the internship program first.
Yeah.
What type of project?
Yeah. So, what type of projects have you worked on,
tasks?
for example?
Yeah, I think it depends on the project. But it's probably similar to most like commercial sided grad jobs where you kind of just there's a lot of like Excel, a lot of Word, so too many technical skills or anything, so you never really feel pressure in that sense. For me, it was just managing Excel spreadsheets, and then some correspondence, and then doing some side bits and stuff is always fun. But I think the day-to-day isn't too hard to manage or anything. Maybe some meetings as well to take notes on or attend. What type of projects?
So like I'm talking about like what kind of scale is the project going to be? Is it just working on Excel spreadsheets? That's it.
What type of scale is the project?
I suppose.
I think project scale just depends on what you're placed on. For me, it was the metro, like obviously not all projects that you'd go on as a grad or undergrad would be of that scale. I don't know what you guys saw.
Yeah, so like your manager would make life pretty easy for you. They wouldn't give you something that you have no way of knowing how to do and expect you to go into it. They kind of show you step by step what needs to be done to get to the final product. So if it's like drafting a report, like an evaluation report, they give you a template, probably like a precedent to have a look off, and then you can slowly make your way through. So yeah, you don't get thrown into the deep end, and it's sort of a gradual transition into the program.
So during my internship experience, it was similar in like basically taking minutes, taking meeting minutes, attending meetings, things like that, a few small items at the start. And as soon as sort of I grew my confidence and the manager was able to, or my director at the time was able to see it, you start getting more and more involved in different tasks. I will also say, like, as everyone's mentioned before, like you're not expected to, let's say you want to be a structural engineer, you're not expected to design a building from day one. If they do, then my take is that that's more of a reflection of them as a person than it is of you. So no one really expects too much of you at the start, but really try and push and try to learn and ask questions. Really try to get engaged as part of the process, and that will reward you further along the lines because they say, okay, this person is engaged, they want to learn more, let's get them going with a few more things. And then once you're able to develop that confidence, once you're able to develop more and more things, you then get more and more complicated tasks, which will also build you as a professional as well.
All right. So does the audience have any questions about the internship?